In this video, I'm going to show you how I show live chat messages on the screen during my live streams. Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki. If you've watched many of my live streams in the past, you'll know that I like to show the current question that I'm answering on the screen as I'm talking about it. I run my live streams from the ATEM Mini, so I've got a way to actually bring the chat messages into the ATEM Mini so I can show the chat messages over the stream. I'm going to walk through how I set that up in this video and show you how you can do it for your own live streams. So first things first, what do you need for this? First, you're going to need a computer to view and interact with the chat. You'll need some way to get that screen into the ATEM Mini. That could be using either an external display dongle or a Chromecast where you can share a Chrome tab into the ATEM Mini. You'll need Chrome since this is packaged up as a Chrome extension, at least until I get around to packaging it up for Firefox. And of course, you'll need an ATEM Mini. So with that out of the way, let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is to go to the Chrome Web Store and install this extension. I'm going to leave a link to this extension down below because it may take a while before it starts showing up in search since it is pretty new still. So make sure you found this one called Live Chat Overlay by Aaron Parecki and go ahead and click Add to Chrome. It's going to tell you that it can read your data on youtube.com, and this is a really important point. You should only install extensions that you trust because they do get a lot of power on the websites that they are asking for access on. I'm going to go ahead and click Add Extension, and in a couple of seconds, it should be installed in my browser. So once this is installed, we are ready to now set up the ATEM Mini to actually view this. This is where we're going to spend most of our time. Now, this does mean you need an active chat in order to actually test this out. So you can either start a private stream yourself and then type stuff in the chat, or go find some other channel's current live stream that has a lot of activity on it. For now, I'll start a private live stream on my ATEM Mini and we will go ahead and use that. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Air. And this should now create a private live stream where I can use the chat and we can try this out. Once your stream has started, you can go ahead and view it on YouTube. Click the little chat window and click Pop Out Chat. That's going to open this in a new window, which will then be restyled. Now you do need to make this bigger, and the easiest way to do that is to just copy this URL, close this window, and then paste it in a new tab. Visiting that link, you might notice this now looks different from the normal live chat pop-out. And this is the extension doing its job. So the way this is going to work is when you want to show a message, you just go ahead and tap on it, and then it slides up from the bottom and shows on the screen here. It also highlights in green so that you know you've seen that message and addressed it. Now, I just want to give a huge shout out to the original author who made this CSS and JavaScript actually work. A few months ago, Tobias from the channel Rides of Japan was live coding this on a live stream, actually making the CSS and JavaScript to actually make these comments pop up from the bottom and style it all. I made a few changes like moving the active area that shows the chat from the top to the bottom and turning the background black so that you can use the downstream key instead of having to use the upstream chroma key. And in the last few months, a few other people have contributed to this code as well. So it's really been a group effort now. What I did last week was package this all up into a browser extension so that it's actually very easy to install and you don't need to fiddle with any code anymore. So again, huge thanks to Tobias for making this look good and getting this project started. Okay, so back to actually making this work. We're ready now to try this out and actually get this into the ATEM Mini. So again, you have two ways to get this into the ATEM Mini. You can either take an HDMI cord from your computer and move this window onto that external display that is the ATEM Mini. I actually prefer to share this tab into my Chromecast that's plugged into the ATEM Mini. That way I save a cable and I can also not have to worry about finding that monitor. So I'm just going to go ahead and cast this tab over to the Chromecast, which is plugged into my ATEM Mini. And you'll see that this tab now appears in the ATEM Mini Multiview. You might also notice that the aspect ratio in the Chromecast is a little bit off because this window has this title bar across the top, which is eating into the 1920 by 1080. So I added this little aspect ratio thing here, which tells you the aspect ratio of the window, so you can get it as close to 1.77 as you can. So you can just resize this until it gets to about 1.77. And now the Chromecast should be showing a full screen image. Okay, now we're ready to go. So this is now showing up in my ATEM Mini. You can see that tab is there. And now when I go back over to this window, my computer, the ATEM Mini is still showing the chat from the Chromecast. Now we're ready to set up the key. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and use the downstream key. That frees up the upstream key for other things like bringing in other graphics or other video sources. So click downstream key and then go ahead and choose your input for both the fill and the key. We're going to talk about the mask in a second. If I turn this on right now, on air, we're going to see that it covers up my video, and we now need to dial in the actual key. It might start out looking more like this, Adjust the clip just until it pops out, and then bring the gain down a bit until you get rid of some of the fuzzy edges, but before it starts fading out. So that's about right. Now we need to use the mask to actually get rid of that whole top chunk. So click on the mask and you can see that it's not quite lined up. If you adjust the top, you can see we need to get rid of it a little bit more till about -3 point. There we go, there's that, gets rid of that line. And we don't need to crop the bottom or left or right, so we'll leave that at -9, 16, and -16. So this key is now set. So if I go back to my tab showing the chat, as I now click other messages, we can see them pop up on the screen. And that's looking pretty good. So of course, it's a little bit awkward to have to dial this in every time, so you're gonna wanna make a macro to quickly restore these settings into your downstream keyer. But once they are set up, you can turn on and off the chat very easily by pressing on air, or even fading it out. I've got other videos talking about how to make macros, so I'm not gonna walk through that whole process in this one. And well, that's it. That's all there is to it. I like to leave the key on for most of the time, and then you can also click this clear button to get rid of an active message, and then you just keep an eye on the chat and click the messages when you're ready to show them. Again, I want to give a huge thanks to Rides of Japan for actually doing the work of styling this. I was very excited to not have to write all that CSS myself, and instead just package it up into a browser extension so you can install it quickly. I do have a few features planned for the extension in the future, things like letting you customize whether or not people's full names are shown, as well as customizing the color scheme. For now, this is what you get, but keep an eye on that extension and I will be pushing out updates for it in the future. If you are a web developer and want to help out add some of these features, I'll leave a link to the GitHub repo for this below. It is open source and I'm happy to have other people contribute to this as well. Well, thanks so much for watching and I will see you in the next one.